Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss a recent interview with Labour's Shadow International Trade Minister, in which he appeared to be suggesting that he would seek a post-Brexit US trade deal. Is that really what he means? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, a few things to discuss here, but first of all, let us be clear about realities. One, no UK government, no matter how sensible or which party, whatever, is going to get a trade deal with the US that will be considered an economic boon for the UK. Multiple reasons for this. We are a much smaller economy, so our negotiating position is poor straight off the bat. We are desperate for trade deals, and that won't change with a Labour government. So our negotiating position is poor again. In addition, the US has some of the best trade negotiators in the world. Our teams are a ramshackle collection of whoever was willing to go along with arranging trade deals where we basically capitulated on almost every issue. Not that we can blame the negotiators for that, they've been instructed by ministers. Second, the US isn't that bothered about a trade deal with us. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit surprised the US government know that we would give them massively increased access to our market and not expect much into theirs. As a result, I'm genuinely surprised that the US isn't all that bothered. I do get right now the unsettled issue of Northern Ireland as a major barrier to a trade deal though. Perhaps Labour think that the US will wish to engage with a party that starts to honour the Northern Ireland Protocol, and it isn't even like senior Labour figures are left guessing. The Labour Party do have rather good links with the Democrats, certainly better than the Conservatives do, so they could just ask them. But that won't be why Labour are now pushing the need to get the US trade deal. The reason's really simple. The Conservatives promised one. It was one of their biggest selling points of Brexit, and they failed to deliver it. And they're going to continue to fail to deliver it. As I discussed in a different video yesterday, Labour need to be pressing the Conservatives on all the things they promised and all the things they could do to make people's lives better, but aren't doing. Just like Boris Johnson promised to cut VAT on energy, if we left the EU, this is also the main reason Labour are pushing for a cut in VAT. Won't actually stop the energy prices increasing, won't even stop people being plunged into poverty as a result on its own. Our out-of-control energy prices are down in no small part to the Conservatives stripping our gas reserves and leaving us vulnerable to the global pressures that they now blame. The reason Labour are pushing the cut to VAT as well as other measures is because it's something they are willing to deliver, that they would deliver in government, but that the Conservatives promised to do but don't want to do. Same with the US trade deal, really. It's something that the Conservatives promised but are either unable or unwilling to deliver. In this case, unable. Doesn't matter the reason, a broken promise either way. But just as with the cut to energy VAT, if Labour point out the fact that the Conservatives are failing to deliver something that they promised, the question inevitably gets turned back on them, as it did, as to, well, would you do this? So of course Labour have to say, well, yeah, we would push for a US trade deal. But to my mind, there are two questions. One, could Labour actually succeed where the Conservatives have failed? Second, if all we can get is a trade deal that's basically on the same par at best as the other crap trade deals we've been getting, is it still worth doing? Now, the first point, could Labour actually succeed where the Conservatives fail? Well, Labour have a good relationship with the Democrats, and the Democrats are currently on control. But the main sticking point over a US trade deal right now is the threats over Ireland related to the Northern Ireland Protocol. Labour, of course, have attacked these threats and committed to seeking arrangements in line with what the EU had already been proposing as practical measures to limit the damage of Brexit trade between Britain and Northern Ireland, including a veterinary agreement which would reduce the number of checks required. Of course, this is all assuming that the Democrats remain in control and that Biden wants the trade deal. Again, I say I don't see why he'd be against it, but I don't see why he's been against it up till now. It is what it is. In reality, though, that future looks doubtful. The Democrats only have an extremely weak level of control right now, to the point where a major bill was sunk because 2 Democrats wouldn't vote for it. The midterm elections this year are bound to be much dirtier as Republicans install voter suppression and people into key positions who will happily throw out entire bucket loads of votes from Democrat areas in order to maximise Republican wins. If the Republicans gain control of one or both houses, they will completely kneecap Biden. He'll get nothing done. Won't even be a case of having to work on purely bipartisan areas of interest. Republicans will vote down things even that they agree with just to make Biden look weak. The second half of his presidency will be spent being toothless, and Republicans will point out how little he is getting done, laying the groundwork for their candidate, maybe Trump, maybe a Trump clone, to win the next presidential election. And at that point, Labour would have no stomach for even wanting to deal with either Trump or a smarter version of Trump. And besides, if that happens, the US will be in serious danger of sliding into social collapse. Indeed, I know a lot of commentators think it would be almost certain. Labour's main task will therefore be to prevent the UK doing the same. But then the second question. Regardless of where the power in the US lies in 2024 and beyond, which we will not yet know, is it worth pursuing what would be a crap trade deal? Now, to my mind, there are arguments for and against. In favour would be the notion that even a crap trade deal is better than nothing. I've already recently presented a mathematical analysis to show no matter how many of these trade deals we get, even with mighty economies like the US, it's simply impossible to compensate for the loss of trade that Brexit caused. Mathematically impossible. So from that point of view, getting trade deals, even with the US, will not make Brexit work, so to speak. But as long as there's some small benefit to us, even if it's only a tiny boost to GDP, you may as well have it as not. But then there's the downsides. First, it would be similar to the Australia trade deal in that we would inevitably have to agree to market access for American agriculture and pharmaceutical products that would be entirely in their favour and for which we would get little to no reciprocal benefit. If Labour don't agree, for example, to compel the NHS to buy American, even if it's more expensive, the deal may be off completely. Second, no matter how the deal panned out, the Tory backing media would point out how worthless it is to us. Oh, this is a rubbish deal. The same media who hailed the trade deals, which the government's own figures show to be essentially worthless, would in their partisan way decry any trade deal that Labour could get. So really it would come down to this. Is it politically better to get a trade deal that the press try and savage, but which Labour can claim to have succeeded where the Tories failed? Or is it better to just keep pushing for the trade deal, letting the years roll by and just deflecting questions by saying, well, negotiations are ongoing, they're very tough, and we want to get the best possible deal for the UK. After all, the key distinction between the Conservatives and Labour on this issue is that the Conservatives promised a US trade deal, but Labour only promising to push for one. And like I say, my view is they've brought this issue up not as a way of announcing that they want a US trade deal, because they only conceded that when asked. When asked, oh, will you get a trade deal? Then it was like, well, of course we'll push for one. They've brought this issue up as a stick to beat the Tories with, rather than a key policy aim of their own. Because there's no real prospect of a US trade deal that works for us. It doesn't matter who is in government. Brexit has made the UK both weak and desperate on the international stage, no matter how competent a future government may be. In addition, no matter how good the links between Labour and the Democrats, the US agriculture and pharmaceutical lobbies will not allow a trade deal that doesn't give them British market access to the products that they currently cannot sell here, whether because of price or quality. And if Trump gets back in, the entire country may go up in flames. Did enough damage when Blair got too close to Bush. Can't imagine Starmer even wanting to meet Trump, much less deal with him, and there'd be no fruitful line of cooperation on offer anyway. So I would put this down purely and simply to a line of attack against broken Tory promises in order to make people doubt the raft of promises that they present at the next election. Yes, those promises sound really nice, don't they, Labour will say, but they always break their promises, so you won't get them. That is the line here, pure and simple, I feel. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.